Complement what we were talking about yesterday, last night. And I realized afterwards it's a clear halacha. The Gemara says, I've mentioned it many times, the Gemara says that one gives a pruta into tzedakah, and he says, Amnash sheyichye bni, and he's doing this so that my son will live. Harei tzaddik gomer. Yeah, harei tzaddik gomer. It means he did a real mitzvah. So Tosfos on this part asks, this is very illegal. Which means tzaddik gomer. He is not doing it altruistically. He has a personal motivation. And Tosfos answers that although he says, amassed does not mean conditionally, and if not, I'm not giving. And where is the proof of that? That if, God forbid, it does not work and he loses his son, he does not regret having given the tzedakah. In other words, even in this is a chitzoni, this is not a liar. This is what we were talking about yesterday. Even on the chitzonis, there is a reality behind it. This is called the yisoid. That goes much deeper than what he says and how he acts. This is why we say, nidos are rooted in the nefesh. Nidos are not formulated circumstantially at the moment. All right. So now we are on the very bottom, on page AyinBase 6, the very last word. Okay, yesterday you finished it. So all of these illustrations from the Nefesh and Eish HaYisedi and the Shemesh, these were all to give us a means to understand and an approach to begin to relate to the principle of Atzmos giving off oil. Because the very same question that we have on Atzmos, we have a question on the Nefesh. Why does Nefesh give oil? Why does the sun give light? Where does it come from in the sun? The signal from giving light. And the same thing of all the other things. Now he says, goes deeper than that. Ube'emes, but in real truth, ein kol zeh dugmoes amitiyos. All of these things that we brought down are not really dugmoes amitiyos, are true and correct illustrations to the question that we're talking about Atzmos. Where is the shortcoming in the dugmoes? The harei, for we have to understand. Ha-nefesh, the nefesh, hagam she'eino chayus. Although the nefesh is not chayus, meaning it is not life in the extent that life-giving, that if you touch it, there's an element of life that you observe. Mikol mokoim, but yet still harei hu mitzius chai. It is a mitzius chai. It's a living presence. V'zehu kol inyonoi, and this, in fact, is the entire inyan, the entire principle that defines nefesh. Shehu chai be'etzem, that the nefesh is chai, but it is chai be'etzem. It is not chai by something motivating it and arousing it, and this is why it demonstrates and manifests Ayin of Chayas. It is Chay be'etzem, it is Chay in essence. Rak, except Shemushlo, this which we have explained the whole time, that it is actually beyond, and Chayas is completely out of its realm. Mushlo mibchinas Chayas shelahachayos. The aspect of Chayas shelahachayos, whose function it is and whose definition it is lahachayos, that he would make other things live. Shezeh shayach, because this Inyan shayach Chayas shelahachayos is shayach, is applicable rak beha-ha'ora levad. It is shayach only in the ha'ora. We'll have a chance now to discuss this in. Chayas shelahachayos is shayach only in the ha'ora. The ha'etzem, but the etzem mushlam is devoid of this. Not only devoid when it is negated, it cannot even relate to it. What is this saying? This is shayach beha ha'ora levad, not, and the etzem is mushlo. We talked many times about light. Light is very difficult to identify. In light, so we clearly recognize the difference between daylight and a focused light that illuminates and enables you to see your next step. The focused light is light lahoyer. The reason it is called light is because it makes it possible for you to see the object. It is not an essential element of light. It's still perfectly dark. Daylight, that takes over the entire environment and eliminates the whole presence of darkness. You can't even imagine that the responsibility of darkness. This is what brings the essence of the sun down. Of course, it takes over the entire environment. Like I mentioned many times, it says about the sun is that the sun rules by day. What does it mean, rules by day? It gives light. It serves the day. That's made memshelis. Memshelis means it takes over, it rules, meaning that it eliminates all its opposition. And it takes over. This is light, in the real sense of the word. But the ha'or, what is the ha'ora means the same thing, but only functionally. If you need light to see your way across, I'm going to give light to see it. But that's all I'm giving you. The ability to walk across. I'm not giving you light per se. This is what we're saying over here. That the union from Chayas Lahachi is shayach rak beha-ha'ora levad. Only in the ha'ora. The ha'ora means the functional element of nefesh. Reflection of nefesh. It's not the real thing. Let me give. I mean, I understand. I'm sure we understand this. We just want to give even something more concrete. We spoke about this many times. There is a wealthy person, and then there is the king. A king, a Pitin Torah, is not allowed to have loaded coffers. It shouldn't have a lot of money in his treasury. He should not have a lot of money on hand. Because then he will lose his sense of what he is and so forth. So therefore, this wealthy person who is loaded, and the king who has got a limited resource, would you then say that the wealthy person is greater than the king? Or is there a comparison of any kind? What is in fact, let us think about this for a moment. The Torah says the king should not have too much in his treasury. But whatever money he will need, he will always have. Because whatever he needs, it is the obligation of the country, of the people in the country, to supply it. So therefore, what is the significance of not having a big treasury?
There's always more to be there, but it's not, but because everybody's beholden to the king.
Are you answering my question?
He owns everything to begin with.
Right. So what's the point in the Torah that says Liyar v'lei me'id?
What's the point of his not
Yeah.
heaping up treasures?
Yeah.
Well, I think that the riches of the king indicates of the presence of Hashem, and that's the main difference. The king riches indicates it comes from Hashem, and Hashem is limitless, whereas the rich person, as rich as he is still showing himself, still indicating of his own presence, as opposed to the king indicates to Hashem's presence in his riches. Therefore, he doesn't work.
My question is, how do you compare the king to the rich person?
You can't. He has infinite means.
But the Torah says Liyar v'lei me'id. So what's the significance of Liyar v'lei me'id?
Shouldn't get confused and think that his wealth is the limited wealth that he has in his treasury.
It's not material.
The wealth is coming from an unlimited resource.
So then,
Then it shouldn't matter how much.
yeah, doesn't matter how much he has.
I mean, is it like he shouldn't have many? Is it like he should not have many horses?
Yeah, that's
should not be distracted should not be distracted by his own.
But kesef v'zohav Liyar v'lei me'id. Horses.
Well, he has to go to. In other words, when he has to go to the unlimited resource, it's like he's connecting back into the unlimited. He's constantly maintaining his connection with the Hashem, with the source. Again.
No, one second. I'll explain it now. The king must have everything that he needs, but he must have everything he needs coming from the real source, not because he possesses it. If he goes into the point where he possesses it, then he is like a wealthy person. He's not in the category of a king. And the main thing is that then he becomes independent. He forgets about the real source where everything is coming from. He becomes less than a king, and he becomes haughty. And he bases his whole mentality on his possessions.
He becomes haughty.
Yeah. This is what that his heart should not become big in his own mind. So the thing is like this. We're saying like this: the wealthy person has very large resources. The king has no larger resources, but he has what kind of? He has the infinite resource. The infinite resource is like this. So lo yarbale. And the infinite resource is something which has to come as needed. There's nothing there on the ready. The infinite resource is always part of the infinity, not his. And he is getting it from there. The sun is etzem behiri. Etzem behiri, we have everything. He says no. The sun is etzem behiri, but the light that it gives comes from this etzem behiri, but what we get is a limited amount of it. That's called the ha-olam. The ha-olam means the effect of it, the functional element of it. But the king also, there is the ha-olam. What's the ha-olam? That when he will need it, he will have it. When a king goes to war, for example, and then he has all the reasons that he needs. This is the ha-olam of what in reality is. This is called the ha-olam. The ha-olam is actual funds, actual wealth, because he has to pay his soldiers and he has to buy machinery and so forth. But that's only ha-olam of the reality. In the reality itself, there is nothing. There is no kesef, there is no zohar. There is something real. This is what we're saying. The nefesh is also like this. The nefesh is chai ba'etzem, but not chai ba'etzem in terms of it giving light. It has a reality of chayes. That reality of chayes is not definable and identifiable, just like the reality of the king's wealth is not identifiable as wealth. It only becomes wealth in the ha-olam. But in the etzem, mushlam is emed alagamri. The reason that the king will have what he needs is not because there is some kind of a hidden treasure someplace. There is the source of the wealth, not the wealth, not anything that consists of wealth. Okay, so this is what he says over here. So the nefesh is only mushlo, from chayas to lahachiyus, chayas that can give life. What kind of chayas can give life? What kind of light can illuminate? Actual light, not light in essence. This is the heart of it, functionally. So the Ayin from Chayes L'Hachis is on the Shaiba ha-olam. But the etzem of the nefesh is mushlam is that. Is completely devoid and in entirely different realm. Like we say, the king is not based on wealth. He's based on a completely different reality. This is the nefesh. So even though that's true, and the nefesh is devoid of actual chayus, but from the essential meaning of chayus, ain't a mushlo. It is not negated. It's not completely outside the realm of chayus per se. Chayus lahachiyus, chayus that by virtue of its presence it makes other things live, which means it has a functional presence. But the etzem chayus ain't a mushlo. Shaharei inyonehu shehu chay, because that is in fact the definition of nefesh. It is living. It is alive. But this life is not something that you can tell There's not something that will affect anything that comes in the proximity to it. Therefore, the transition from the etzem into chayes l'hachiyos isn't that fundamental. It is definitely a different realm, but it is not in a different realm. It is definite, and by definition, it is not a different thing. This is chai. This is chai. But this is not chai that expresses itself. That is a ha-olam functionally, but nevertheless, the function of life is also called life. Therefore, nefesh is called chai be'etzem. V'chein hashemesh. Similarly, the other example that we had from the sun, we said that the sun is not illumination, it's not light that illuminates. Harei hu oir be'etzem hu. Nevertheless, it is by definition oir, light. That's what the essence of light. Rag she'enoi oir hameir. The only thing is that we said that it is not light that illuminates. Why is it not illuminate? Because it is not in the state in the mitzias of light. Which light illuminates? Let's put it down on the lowest level. Light that actually hits an object. That, like we said, journeys from the sun and comes down and hits an object. It illuminates. The light of the sun is not oil hameir, but in essence the sun is light. Therefore, being that in the essential definition of what they are chayus, the nefesh is chayus, the oil and the sun is light. Shayach loimar, therefore, it is possible to project and say, hamshochas ha'ora mehem, that there could be a hamshocha of a ha'ora, that you can draw a functional, a ha'ora element from that. The nefesh is chay be'etzem. You can draw a ha'ora from chayes. The sun is oil be'etzem. You can draw a ha'ora of light. It's a different level than the sun, but nevertheless, you can draw a ha'ora from shaharei. Since that, ha'etzem gam kein ein b'mtzias muvda lagamri. Since that the etzem is not in a totally unrelated, totally strange and different mitzius. Sharei hu mitzius chai oir be'etzem mahusay. Since that in fact it is a mitzius chai, a living mitzius, or it's a light mitzius. Al kain, therefore, shayach loimar hamshochas ha'oir v'hagilul mimenu. Therefore, it is conceivable, and it lends itself to be able to define hamshochas ha'oir, to draw light from it, and draw a gilui, and draw a revelation from it, because there is a definition to it.
Isn't this dafka the definition of gilui? Something that's coming.
Sorry?
Isn't this dafka the definition of gilui min ha-olam? In other words, taking something that is on a completely different level and bringing it into a functional reality. And, taking an essential level of light and bringing it into a functional level. That's dafka. That's the classic, how we always explain gilui min ha-olam.
Here's what I was saying. the greatest miracle, the greatest distance between two things, two levels, is clearly in Yesh Me Ayin. To make gold out of wood. Crazy thing. Gold out of wood. You can't even begin to project, to imagine this. There is a similarity between gold and wood. They both are as existence. You change existence. How you can possibly change it into gold? You can't even imagine it. But you can start talking about, can you make gold out of wood? In other words, you're referring to something. What are you referring to? Wood. Can you draw gold out of wood? The answer is either yes or no. But the question itself is a pertinent question. Where are you going to draw the gold from? From wood. Ayin means there is nothing there. So therefore, what's your question? Can you draw gold from nothing? That's not even a pertinent question. This is the nefesh is a mitzias chai. It is not lahachi, it doesn't explain itself. But there is something to speak about. How do you draw chayos lahachis from the nefesh? I don't know. But there is something to correlate it. This is a mitzias and this is a mitzias. The nefesh is a mitzias chai. It's a presence. The sun is a presence. It's a presence of light. I can point out all the time that one of the great wonders that allows us to focus in something which is beyond our world is that light to the sun is of the same basic reality as darkness to us. Darkness in our world. So darkness to our world we can relate, but light at that level of reality as darkness, we can't even project it. But nevertheless, it is a presence. It's a presence of light which we cannot surmise what kind of presence it is. But nevertheless, it's a presence. And from that presence can come light that illuminates, or can come, or we're projecting that. In other words, it's not moved or legamri. It's not totally out of whack to speak about it. It's like drawing gold from wood.
Which is not the case with
which is not the case. Oh, it's not the case with atzmos until the course. So these things, the nefesh and the sound, so then these are proper demonstration of the concept, but not an exact demonstration. It allows us to begin to think about it, but then once we start thinking, but that's not sufficient. Doesn't really address the real question. This is what the Rebbe says. The Harei, let's continue into the point of it. The Harei, since that Iker Hatmiyahu, the principal wonder, the principal perplexity in the Indian, how can oil be drawn from Atzmus? Is mipnei ho'ein aroich. It is the distance in the proximity. Sheho'atzmus who moved the lagamri mikol dover. Now the atzmus is movdal, is separate, is distance totally from everything. Not this is one thing and this is like this is wood and this is gold. This is no dover. Mikol dover. Hein oir, v'hein yesh. Either oir or even a yesh, a presence. Mefi she'ein oir b'bchinas mitzius dover chas v'sholom. Because atzmus is not b'bchinas mitzius dover, whatever a dover you will say. The nefesh is a dover. It's a chai, not chayus. But there is something to talk about. The shemesh is something to talk about. Wood, there is something to talk about. The real tmi over here is not how can gold come from wood. The real tmi in terms of atzmus, it's a loy dover.
Did we have this explained like a page or two back, and now we're coming back to it because we're pushing off what you might have thought? Is that we've had this issue for a while now? Yeah?
Yes, and now we have elaborated on it. We had this issue for a while, and there we just pointed out how wondrous it is. Now we're going much deeper, and it says, in fact, how does it happen? It's one thing to say, this is a wonder. It's a miracle. Now we're going further and saying, okay, but now we need to ultimately delve into it and say, what does this demonstrate?
I want to ask
Klotz kasha.
I probably not. This fact that it says chas v'shalom over here. In other words, what's the where? What are we? What is? I understand.
To perceive atzmus as a source. Chas v'shalom.
Yeah. Well, what's the thing that really hits chas v'shalom that you should say such a thing?
Well, anything, first of all, it gives it a limit. Gives it a definition. And there's more to it. We spoke about it the other day. Everything comes from atzmus. Atzmus is everything. There's a motzur issue. This motzur issue, what does this motzur issue mean? Does that mean since there's motzur issue, I can go and take a piece of motzur issue and make me a suda? There's nothing there to be gotten. The only way you can get anything from Motzei Rishon is when Motzei Rishon gives it to you. There's nothing there to be gotten. This is the big thing, In Klippa there, I'm going to relate to God. I'm really relating to God. But we relate to God as a dover. The more you're relating, the further away you are from it. This is it for this morning. Have a great day Yeah.